Why are some conversations so tough to have? And why is it that those conversations sometimes do not go according to plan? Hey, I'm Midja, and today I want to share with you my one tip, the one thing that I think you can do as a leader in your organization to make these conversations easier. So let us first think about why these conversations come about. What happens in the workplace that makes certain conversations, certain feedback really tough to give? Well, let's look at it this way. Let's draw a matrix up here, a really simple one that you've probably seen before. So on one axis, we have performance. So performance metrics. Certain goals that people are either meeting or exceeding those goals or they're not. So down here, we've got the performance metrics. Either someone is meeting them or someone is not performing and not hitting their goals. And then on the other axis, we've got cultural behaviors. Okay, so I will just pop in culture, so you know what we're talking about there. And either someone is highly culturally aligned and behaving in the team just the way you want them to, or someone is not playing well within the team and is not a cultural fit. So if we take a look at the issues that come up in the workplace and the conversations that we have, if we take a look at someone who is not a cultural fit, so not behaving culturally in the way we want, and they're also not performing strongly, they're not meeting their goals, then probably that person, you are trying to help them out of the organization. And you know what? Those conversations can often fall within the performance management arena. And they're conversations you need to structure carefully, but the end goal is, you know what, they're not performing and they're not a cultural fit, and you probably don't want them around. They're not adding anything to the team or the organization. And then you've got let's go over here, where someone is highly culturally aligned and behaving just the way you want them to. They're part of the tribe, but they're not performing so well. So these conversations that happen up here are really when you're coaching and you're mentoring. And these conversations, you know what, they actually go pretty well. And they're easier conversations to have because the person is open and they're coachable because they're culturally aligned, but they're just not performing. And often you can point to a metric and go, you know what, you're not performing in this way because like last month you had this many sales to meet and you didn't meet it, or your billables were this for last week and you actually didn't reach that target. So there's plain evidence, and the conversations are easier and they're culturally aligned and open to feedback and they want to do their best work. And then you've got this quadrant over here where someone is culturally aligned and performing well, and this is when you're giving positive feedback and you're rewarding them and you're recognizing them. And this stuff often leaders like to do. That's a quadrant people like to be in. I think there's more that we can do as leaders in that quadrant, and sometimes those people are forgotten or we don't structure the feedback in a way that really adds value. But more about that in another vlog. This is the quadrant here that I really want to talk about today. And this to me is the quadrant that when I'm working with organizations, it's conversations in this quadrant that leaders are like, ooh, they're tough and they don't go so well. And this is when someone is performing really well, hitting all of their metrics, all of those targets, but they're not a cultural fit. And these are the tough conversations, because then we're talking about behaviors. And that person's response to the conversation can often be, But hey, I'm your best performer. I'm making you the most money. I, got the most sales last month out of anyone in the team. And you're telling me there's a problem? Yeah, so this can be tough, and often they're not open to the feedback and they're not coachable. And so, as I said to you, I want to give you my one piece of advice, one thing that you can do to make these conversations here easier. And what it is having a cultural blueprint in your organization. And that means having a strong set of values, 3 to 5 values, okay? Things that are your preferences and your priorities in your organization. And then for each of those values, then setting out, because of that value, around here, this is what we think. This is our mindset. This is what we do. These are the expectations around behaviors. And also, this is what we say. This is the language that we use in this organization, in this team. And once you can define all of that, and then add in a layer of stories and examples around all of that and create this cultural blueprint, if you like, for your organization, it makes these conversations easier. Because people know what is expected of them from a cultural perspective. And when something happens and it's misaligned with that cultural blueprint, you can point to it really clearly, just like you can with performance metrics. You know what? Because as a leader, it's about making the job of leadership, the role of leadership, as enjoyable and as fun as you possibly can make it. And yeah, you've got to have the tough conversations. You've got to give that tough feedback in order for people to grow, but make it as easy on you as you possibly can. Now, if you'd like to talk about culture in your organization or coming up with a cultural blueprint for your team, reach out and let me know. I can. I'm Mitja. Mwah. Bye, guys.